Thanks, Greg. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope the presentation can assist you during a possible disease investigation and also assist either the government vet or inspector or your private veterinarian prior to attending the place, and just give them a bit of food for thought before they come onto your property. So always start off with, when people do phone me, they ring up and say, I've got an issue, and it's red lights and sirens. Like, they're very excited and very keen to get someone out there. But I always ask them just to take a bit of a step back, okay, and just start thinking what's happened prior to the situation that's in front of you occurring, okay, and start recording a few notes, okay, of what you're seeing, so that you can relay that across to whoever you are talking to on the end of the phone, and giving them a bit of a look into what has occurred on your property, so that they can have time to prepare and think about possible disease diagnosis or and sampling equipment that they must bring with them to complete a successful disease investigation. Okay, so, and we need to look at things like, how long do you think this has been occurring? Is this just the first animal that you've found, or is there a number of animals that have been affected over a period of time? So we need to start recording that information so that you can pass that on to us. Also, while you're looking at these animals on the place, always be thinking, has this occurred in another paddock somewhere? Okay, even looking over the neighbour's fence is a good practice to have a look at. Okay, you're out in the paddock, you've seen an animal down, such as this cow here, you're driving home to get phone range or to go back to the house to phone someone to have a yarn to. While you're doing that, always be looking in other paddocks and over the fences, just to ensure it hasn't come in, or it's about to spread further, or issues like that, just so that it can assist us on how big of a problem we're dealing with here. Okay, obviously we strongly encourage you to phone someone. Okay, there's a lot of media stuff out there at the moment with regards to African swine fever. Okay, we really need to be looking and being active with disease investigation or reporting these issues, and that could be a single animal, okay, because a single animal could be the start of something big. So we always try to get to those animals, even if it is just one affected animal. Go out and talk to the producer and have a look at that animal, see what's going on. Okay, so there's a number of us located around the state, and the same with the other states and territories as well. There's inspectors there that are, and vets with the government that are available, and also your private vets are really good people to have on hand, have their number handy as well. So, but for anyone in Queensland, if they link into the call centre, that 13 25 23 number, they can you can be asked to put through to a specific inspector, or if you don't know your inspector in the area, just ask that you're at such and such an area and you need to talk to an inspector for that area. The other number I wish everyone to put in their phones, and it's extremely important, this number is the Emergency Disease Hotline. Okay, it's, on a weekend, if something's gone pear-shaped, you need to talk to someone. Give this number use it. Okay, you will speak to someone in Queensland, a vet there that you can have a yarn to and describe what's going on to, and get a little bit of peace of mind as to, have I got something serious here, or is it just a general disease that's causing the issue? So please put that number in your mobile phones, write it on the fridge, do something, just have it handy, because it is manned 24/7. You're going to speak to someone locally in the area, a vet in the area, so it's a really good number to have on you. Again, so why are we making this phone call? As I said before, are we dealing with a possible exotic disease? Okay, and I suppose we even need to start considering the feral population, your pigs, and native animals as well. So your kangaroos and birds and stuff like that. So if you do come across mass deaths in roos or birds, or you're seeing feral pigs displaying issues. These are the sorts of things we should be acting on as well. Okay, so the information that you're collecting while you're driving back to get phone service or get back to the house is allowing us then to extract that from you so that we can start thinking prior to leaving and as we're driving out to your place, a list of possible differential diagnoses. Are we looking at a plant? Are we looking at metabolic issues? Is it a reproduction issue? All these things we can be kicking around while we're coming out to visit you. The other thing is having an animal that is suitable if a post-mortem is available. Okay, it's not much use phoning us if the animal has been deceased for a long time. We're not going to get any useful samples out of them. But if you have an animal there that is very ill and you don't believe he or she is not going to make it, they're the animals that are very, very good, or animals that have died very, very recently, and that either an inspector or your private veterinarian can get to, or we may even ask, are you comfortable enough to do a post-mortem to collect those samples so that we don't miss that opportunity? Okay. We also use the information that you provide us. Is it safe to proceed with a post-mortem? Okay. There's a number of diseases out there where we don't open the carcasses, anthrax or etc. like that. We don't open them. Okay. But we can take certain samples from those animals without actually having to open the animal up, but rule out these diseases as well. The other thing is PP&E. Unfortunately, we're not bulletproof, okay? And I know we've all thought about it. I've thought about it before. You know, you think, oh, we don't need to wear gloves or overalls or gumboots and stuff like that. So it is important to consider PP&E because some of these diseases that we are investigating are zoonotics. And speaking from experience with leptospirosis, it's not a nice disease to contract. So PP&E is very, very important. We encourage people to use that. We're also thinking about a range of possible samples that we can collect. Generally, we've got a normal set that we always collect from an animal, okay? But in a lot of other disease investigations we do have to think outside of that range, outside of that box and go, well, we need to collect this, so we might need to throw some more tools of the trade, I suppose, in to collect those samples so that we can get a possible diagnosis on that animal. Okay, and also we need to make a suitable time to meet up with you, or if you've done a post-mortem, we still need to get those samples to us or your private veterinary practitioner as quickly as possible to maintain the quality of those samples so that the lab has the best possible chance in getting a diagnosis and getting to the bottom of the situation. So if we do engage you to do a post-mortem, and I have done this on numerous times, I've talked to producers while they're post-morteming an animal under the headlights of a Toyota and they've got the phone sitting on the bonnet. It's good, you know, and we've had some tremendous results from producers jumping in and just doing it because simply the distances we have to travel, that animal would be no good by tomorrow morning when we get there. So producers can assist by collecting these samples for us under either the government or the private veterinary practitioner's direction and thinking as to what we could be looking for. As I said, we need to get these samples to whoever you're talking to over the phone. We need to get them fairly quickly there. We need to keep those samples nice and cool, not frozen. Okay, so again, we just don't want you to go and stuff them in the fridge at home, you know, an esky with some ice bricks in or something like that, just to keep those samples at a nice, cool, constant temperature so they're not degrading any further. So it's very important. And once we collect those samples off you, then we can process them further and submit to the government labs. I just can't stress that enough. Do not send anything directly to the labs. Obviously, they've got protocols that have to be met, and a lot of these samples that we send, depending on whether they're going air or road, there's different, I suppose, registrations that we've got to have to send these samples via those means. Okay, as I said there before, is that animal suitable for post-mortem? Now, not every disease investigation we do a post-mortem, but a lot of the time we do them, you know. So, but we might be lucky enough that the animal, we go, oh, there's a good chance she could get over this, so we can start collecting simple samples, bloods and urine and feces and stuff like that. The animal on the left there with the head tucked around, she's an animal that is of use to us. If we've deemed that she's not going to recover or she's getting very close to death, she's a good animal to post-mortem. Now, if that's 3 or 4 or 5 hours drive away for your private practitioner or government officer, again, we'll get you fellas to do a post-mortem and submit some samples to assist in that investigation. Whereas the animal on the right there, she's been dead for a number of hours, and to be honest, there's not a lot of value in her. She does tell us a few other bits and pieces, which I'll go into later on, but that animal there, we cannot get a hell of a lot of useful information or samples out of her at this stage. So we are needing to look at her and record a few things, but we need to go into that paddock further and try and establish if there's another animal more suitable that can be sampled and submitted. We'll ask you questions as well with regards to your property management during that disease investigation. And we want you to start thinking about everything. And just writing these things down. If you've got a book there, just scribble them out, and we can either take a photo of those or rip the page out of the book and take it with us. And we'll go into these further, just to sort of explain to you the list of things that we need you to think about, just to assist us when we do the paperwork. So the more information we can give our lab, it gives them more information to consider and allows them to then select a range of tests that may be used on the samples that have been collected from the property. So the more information you give us, the more information we can pass on, and the better the chance we have of a diagnosis. Okay, so start thinking about your pasture. Okay, what have we got there? Is it, and what's the quality and what's the quantity of it? Most people, unfortunately, at the moment, it's pretty dry, and a lot of animals are on herbage and stuff. But we are seeing a lot of animals starting to push onto plants of different toxicities at the moment. So we just need to have a bit of a look around and see what has been grazed as well. Okay, and have a look what they're picking at. Has it been recently burnt? Have we got some nice fresh shoots of these toxic plants coming up as well? It really draws the attention to animals. They like that burnt country because they know there's going to be a bit of green pick coming there, so they will pay particular attention to them. Not so much out in the west, but fertilizer application down in the south there. If they put a heap of fertilizer on, it's rained, has it pooled, and they've been able to access contaminants in that way. Where are these animals working? So you can just take us directly to where they work, what country they're working, instead of us going all over the place. You can go, well, I was up in here, and there's very, very active up in here. There's got to be something up in here. Have you been in there doing some, herbicide management? Okay, for whatever reason, once plants are sprayed, it seems to attract livestock again. They will come up and have a nibble on them. So, and as plants get stressed, they become more toxic. Okay, and again with that bottom note there, with the weather, overcast weather, with your oxalates and stuff like that, we get plants that stress majorly when there's a lot of overcast weather there, and they become more toxic. So they actually produce more toxin in those overcast, cool weather. We had that earlier this year around Blackall. We had a lot of oxalate poisonings just because of that overcast, cool weather. The plants got toxic, and we had sheep dying or becoming very, very ill very, very quickly during that period of time. So just those notes, just write a few of those down. It's always a good idea to have an idea of what poisonous plants are on your place as well. Or if you're going to agistment, try and get a bit of a local knowledge there, and find out what is around. Things we're seeing at the moment, we're seeing a lot of pimmel poisoning coming through the phone reports that we're getting. So, and a lot of people don't know what pimmel is. It's the same when you go up in the north. Heartleaf, is there heartleaf up in there? All these little things, just be hunting around and just seeing what's there. And also start collecting a few plants if you find them, or if they've been nibbled on. Pull them out, roots and all. I generally carry a couple of Country Lifes in the car, and immediately put them in the country life and put something heavy on it to start pressing them and preserving those plants so that we can send them away and get them identified at the lab as well. If most people have got a phone in their pocket, even if you take a photo, GPS or put a marker there so you know where it is, so that we might have to go back and revisit it and get another sample from that plant just to back up the diagnosis. As I said, has it been grazed? Are they paying attention to it? All these sorts of things, if you can jot all those down. One particular spot I like people to go and have a look at is up gullies and low-lying areas where a possible shower of rain or burst pipe or something has allowed water to pool and sit there, and again we get growth of these plants in those areas. And livestock, they know where to go. They'll go and seek it out, and a lot of the time it is you won't find that plant until you actually either go for a ride on the bike and poke up those gullies and have a look, or go for a walk up in there and find it. And we've had that in occasions with sheep. We've walked gullies and found them further afield that you can't see from the vehicle, but you get out further and you see what they're grazing, and you're finding more affected animals and getting to the bottom of the issue at hand. Okay. So your companion animals, what condition are they in? Okay. While you're having a look around, so they foraged, or what sort of weight's in them? Are they going ahead? Are they coming off? Losing weight due to the season, or that big calf, big weaners on them, really sucking the condition out of the cows. So why are they losing condition? And is it affecting? You might have steers and heifers in the paddock, which we've had before. The heifers have picked up the likes of a pulpy kidney, whereas the steers didn't, because the steers were vaccinated due to them having been castrated, etc., like that. So all these sorts of things need to be documented and recorded so that we can send this to the lab. Other things we've had too are it's only the calves being affected. We've seen this with Pimalea because the cows have been born and bred there. They respect the plant, but the calves, being calves, were getting around into footprints and picking up seed heads and stuff. So we were seeing poisoning through the younger animals, and the cows were quite fine. So yeah, those sorts of things are very interesting and need recording as well. So and have they been introduced? Obviously, introduced livestock are more of a risk, especially when we start talking poisonous plants, compared to homebred cattle that have got experience. They know that they can nibble on that plant, but not get a gut full of it, okay? Whereas cattle being trucked in, even the yards can be a ticking time bomb. They can unload into your yards and you've got pigweed and button grass and all this sort of stuff in there, and they just gorge themselves. And next minute you wake up the next morning and there's 10 or 15 of them either dead, dying, or not doing very well at all. So just be aware of those introduced animals, and we had a hell of a lot of that in both sheep and cattle earlier this year out through the west here. So we had some major issues with introduced stock coming in. Your weather patterns, okay, we haven't seen that for a while at Blackall. That was back in 2010. So has it sort of stirred things up up in the north? We had pneumonias and rain scald and stuff like that. We start, if we have a decent rain event, and we're going to start seeing 3-day, and the more midges getting around, so there'll be a few viral things happen once it does sort of make a mistake and drop a bit of rainfall around. And the other extreme is to the right there is those sheep there is exposure. They were just dead unlucky, those ones. They were shearing and a very cold front come through. Just on that hill line there was beautiful feed, but these fellas didn't make it out there, and it was just, it was terrible to look at. There was just heaps of them died there. They actually just froze, but everything else that made it back into the feed and the timber, they were quite happy. It's just these poor fellas here that just didn't quite make it out there. But again, it rings alarm bells. Producers go, holy hell, we've got 50 or 100 dead sheep, or 5 or 10 dead cattle looking at us. It really does get you thinking what the hell's going on. And I suppose, like I said, you just need to take that step back and think what just occurred prior to you observing these animals on the deck and not doing so well. So water supplies, okay, are they on troughs? Open waters. Open waters are a real issue. We had a lot of blue-green algae poisonings occurring there late last year, and a number of places. I've got about 7 or 8 places on the go there at one stage with dams with blue-green algae poisoning or issues going there. So it's a real issue, and I know it is hard, but I think open waters are dangerous. I think it's best to have them fenced and foot valves and sucking from those dams and trying to keep all of those nutrients and stuff from entering those open waterways if possible. Like I said, I know there's places it just doesn't work, but if we can get them back onto troughs, easier to clean, easier to maintain, and a little bit less risk of issues occurring. Bore water. Has the bore been tested of late? Salinity and stuff like that. They're always interesting facts that we can send down to the lab so they can have a look at that as well. Is that bore feeding a number of paddocks? How many paddocks does it feed? All these sorts of things we need to record, and okay, we need to go and have a look at that paddock because right, we've got this paddock, but there's 2 other paddocks being supplied that water source. Are there issues in there? It could be the same thing. It could be a share bore. Is the neighbour having any problems there? So we'll have a yarn to them. Is there any cattle in these paddocks being affected? Can we duck in there and have a look as well? Clean troughs, water going off in troughs. As I said before, troughs aren't the silver bullet, but as long as we keep them relatively tidy, we shouldn't have any issues in there. But yes, crows and that dropping dead animals in there and bones and bits and pieces can make that water source an issue there. And supplements, with all these automatic supplements being added to the waters, has that jammed open and it's fed too much of the supplement into the water source? Okay, so we need to check that and make sure it's right. And the other one I've got there with regards to, I suppose, calves and lambs or kids, can they actually get a drink of water? A lot of troughs get scoured out and, they are getting a drink off mum, but, if it's 40 or 40 degrees plus and they need a little bit extra, can they actually get that water source and have a drink? So especially if you've got just young animals perishing or showing symptoms, so they're always good to have a look at as well. Rainfall runoff, organic matter, sending the water off, botulism. Okay, so botulism can occur in that organic matter going off. And as I said there before, algae blooms. We've had a lot of blue-green algae, but I think it has quietened down at the moment, but it has potential to rear its ugly head again and cause some issues. You supplement feeding, okay? Where's it coming from? We've had a number of plants come up in hay. We had some hay there that animals just wouldn't eat, and we found out that it had a white heliotrope in there, which is extremely dangerous. I've never seen horses walk up to a bale of loosened hay and then walk away, and they're having all sorts of problems feeding their animals and working out what was going on. But we did a botany on that, the bits and pieces in the hay, and we'll be able to provide advice to those producers. And basically that hay just was good for mulch. That was about all it is, and just keep an eye on any plants that were bobbing up because livestock just weren't going to eat it. So how much are they eating per head? And we'll actually have a look at it. And I suppose when you are buying hay in, I would strongly advise that you ask, has this hay been tested? For cyanides and nitrates and all that. It's very important because you might have just spent umpteen dollars to bring a whole road train of hay in, and the hay has been stressed and it's full of cyanide or it's got nitrates in it. Really ask that question, and a lot of the big hay fellas now know that question is going to be asked, and they are getting that hay tested. So definitely chase those analysis up on the hay that you're bringing in. Lick blocks, they're fairly safe unless they are scalloped out and there's been rain. I've seen that before with urea poisoning. They scallop them out and you haven't been able to get out there quick enough to tip them over. It causes a number of animals to go down with urea poisoning. Are those supplements or lick blocks or loose powders, are they under cover and being protected from the elements is another important thing too. So they actually aren't getting any water or rainfall going in. I'm sorry about that. There's an ambulance going past. Feral animals as well. We consider them during a number of disease investigations, so feral pigs, and they are a risk to human as well with the diseases that they can carry, zoonotic diseases, so your leptos and also your Brucella. I have seen a lady with Brucella, and it's not pretty. I thought I was crook, but she was super crook. So, you know, cleaning troughs is a risk. So just make sure you know, if you are cleaning troughs and there's pigs active in the area, keep yourself protected, you know, even if you do have to roll the sleeves down, put on a pair of rubber gloves and stuff like that, just to try and protect yourself, because it's not much fun. And has there been any sort of 1080 programs in the area? Are the cattle or etc. scavenging on carcasses that have been affected by 1080? So there's all those little things are quite important. Now, dogs with sheep, I have seen these fellas annoying sheep to the stage of bringing on humpyback symptoms for people in the sheep area there, just by adding stress to full wool wethers. These fellows were just highly agitated, highly stressed, and we had a number of sheep with humpyback symptoms there. And also, are they just plain attacking them, and they're having you know, puncture wounds that have gone septic, and issues like that, which we have seen before. A number of sheep that were not doing so well, and once we rolled them over and looked, we found all the puncture wounds and found that they were going septic. So human activity, we're also very, very responsible for causing issues in livestock. Campers, what have they left behind? I suppose even when timber control is being done with regards to machinery, batteries being left behind that animals can access. And as per that caravan there, that was actually covered in lead paint that we had an issue on this property. They fenced it, the cattle knocked it down. They fenced it again, the cattle knocked it down again. So we put it under the ground, and we got on top of the issue there. But they were just, the cattle become addicted to it. They get a buzz out of it, and they will keep revisiting those areas where they can pick up those contaminants. So potties around houses and that are notorious for finding things that they shouldn't find. Lead is one, but there's a number of chemicals and that are in most producers' sheds that cause a number of issues for those inquisitive animals that are wandering around the shed. So it's always a good idea to try and keep those animals away from those high risk areas as well. And fence your dumps. I can't stress that enough. You know, we're not just talking the big car batteries and that, you know, the little batteries too. Cattle can swallow them. You know, fence your dumps. I can't say that enough. We just recently had an issue with the dump not being fenced and lead. So it's out there. You know, and cattle will push onto it. So yeah, get in and get that done. It is very, very important. Introductions. What's coming onto the place? Have they had? We had some cattle there recently that were trucked in, and we looked at their time frame on property, and they were going, well, they've got 3 days, but whereas, you know, we haven't got any midges here. It was where they were coming from. So they'd been infected on the previous property. They were incubating the whole time on the truck, and then they arrived the next minute, he's got cattle laying around, not feeling so well. So it didn't occur on his place, it occurred further away. So how long have those animals been there? Can we work out some incubation periods there? And as I said there before, tree clearing. We stir up bits and pieces. We, you know, drag and chains or blade plows. We're offering exposure to more either plants, or we actually accidentally gone through an old dump and we've brought up some lead or something there. So all these sorts of things. And a lot of the times you need to follow the animals to go and work out where they're going to. And find the possible contaminants that they're getting access to. As I said there before, the deceased animals, and the girl here with the that's been dead for quite considerable time. She was a botulism case there. Now, as I said before, there's not a lot of useful samples that can be obtained from her, but she does give us a number of good symptoms. You can see that she's paddling. I'm not overly concerned about the discharge from the mouth because obviously there's a lot of pressure and etc. going on in that carcass, and it's just like a furnace in there, so everything's starting to push out. But the paddling is of interest, and obviously the way she dies. Okay, compared to this little lady on the right-hand side here with the transit technique, she wants to tuck her head around. All those sorts of things are really important to note. And again, you can see that she's paddling in the back feet, so she's in her case, she's just wanting to try and get hold of you. So being transit technique, they get very cranky and they'll just chase you on the ground, crawling around, trying to get hold of you. So those sorts of things are important, and you'll notice things like twitching and discharges. Could be nasal discharges or discharges from the eye, urine, fecal, all these sorts of things. Just if you see it, just jot it down and take a note of it so that we can pick that up there as well. So all those sorts of things are very important and will assist us during a disease investigation. But like I said, we're not going to get much out of that botulism case. So there's not a lot of use in her. So we're looking around for more like this transit technique animal that we can conduct a useful post-mortem on. Live animals. Always observe these animals from a distance, because obviously they're at that fight or flight mode. Okay, we're standing there, they're not feeling well, they want to do something, and that could be bowl you over and just get away from you. So observe them from a distance. Don't rush up to them. Just take your time and see what they do without your presence there or you being in their face and in their discomfort zone, I suppose. You're upsetting them. So write that down. What's she doing? Is she trying to get up? Is she laying her head along the ground? Is she tucking her head to the side? All these sorts of things. Ear, posture, breathing even. Okay, I suppose you could look at it through a pair of binoculars or the scope on a rifle. Just observe her where she's comfortable and she's not worried about you and she's not being aggravated. So and record all those. This animal here, there's some good useful samples that you can collect while she's alive. Okay, so you can take a temperature for a start. You can check her membranes to see what's going on. Is she jaundiced? Is she got any hemorrhages going? And that could be just in the gums. Grab some bloods. Grab a bit of fecal matter as well. If it's steers are hard and bulls are hard, but female cattle, if you can get some urine, if they do pass a bit of urine, quickly grab that into a clean container. All that sort of stuff is very, very useful. Recording her age, breed, type that you have sampled. If you've got a NILS number or something like that, just jot that down so that we can relate everything back to that particular animal. Condition score. What sort of weight she in? Like I said, is she going forward? Is she going back? Those sorts of things are quite good. But even when you are walking up to an animal, just keep observing, because they, with a little bit of stress, they could actually throw a few more symptoms, the twitching or the aggravation. Okay, a lot of animals do get extremely aggressive when they're at this stage. This little lady sitting here, they get very aggressive because they're feeling very vulnerable. So just be aware of that when you are walking up to them, but record all that down. Even if you take some video is really good on your phone too. If you see something, you go, I just don't know how to explain it, take a video and you can send that to us or copy it across. Feet. A lot of people forget about feet during disease investigations. And this fella's, very, very obvious. We had some cattle there late last year. It was extremely hot. They had to walk considerable distance. Big Charolais cows. And there was a cow, she was standing probably 20, 30 yards from water and she was perishing. Between her and that trough was hot gibber stones, a lot of galvanised burr, and she wasn't doing real well at all. And she was pretty cranky too. So, but it didn't occur to us what was going on until we moved her, and she just picked up a back foot and she'd torn half of underneath of a foot off. just by, she'd been in some real powdery country and then she got into a bit of rock. So she was going to perish standing there. So we got water to her and fixed the problem. So don't forget about the feet. Have a good look at them and just make sure there's just not an obvious issue there. Is there a stake, puncture wound? She's torn a toenail off, something simple like that, an abscess even. So take particular attention to those feet. Legs and conformation. The bull here, he's he's got this an actino in the muscle, so he actually looked like a mob of hornets had hit him. He had lumps all over him that were all very full of pus, and yeah, he had to be put on a dose of antibiotics to assist him, and he just had to go to the meatworks after that. But we can collect samples from them and just double check what's going on there. Get in and feel the legs. If it is bulls, I've had old breaks, and you get them in the crush and you push them around, and you can feel the grating and grinding going on there. And you just go, it's just an old injury. That's fine. That's why he's lame. Okay, and that was the initial call. I've got these couple of bulls that are really, really lame. I can't see anything wrong with them. We put them up in the head bale and played around with them and worked out that they had some old injuries there. So just by doing that, you can rule a few things out as well. Again, they're lame animals, so we are interested in having a look at those and working out what's going on. Flexing the joints, okay, a lot of arthritis or osteoarthritis in cattle, even young cattle as young as 12, 15 months of age. We've seen that of late. You wouldn't think about it. We think about arthritis when we're getting old and cranky, but yeah, we're having young animals that are having arthritis coming through as well. The coat and the skin can tell you, well, is there some issues, or is there a break in the wool for the wool fellow, especially with that humpy back? We've seen that before. The animals that have recovered or only just got a touch of and you've left them alone, you'll see the break in the wool. Is it fluffed up? Is it coarse? Are they losing bits and pieces? It could be simply a ringworm thing. They've got all these little dots all over them. Those sorts of things are interesting to record, and possibly take some scraping from those just to rule out a number of other diseases. So this fella on the right hand side, a papillovirus, so each one of those raised areas there, you could actually pull that off and it was red and inflamed under there. Yeah, it's something you don't see real often. He was just dead unlucky, this fella. So and the chance he was not going to recover, so the owner chose to euthanize him. So, but yeah, we can take some good samples from both those animals there and get you a diagnosis. Parasites that could be causing issues around the eyes, skin scrapings are good to collect as well. Head, face and neck. This animal, there wasn't a hell of a lot wrong. She was just she had a few little issues going on there, but I have had animals with vertebrae, bones or etc. caught in the back of throats. They'd walk up, nose the water, can't drink, want to drink, head bailing, awful smell, come out, reach in there, pull the bone out, see absolute relief come across their face, let them out, and they go and drink 40, 50 litres and the problem's fixed. But taking note of their eyes, nose, mouth, any sort of discharges that are coming from there, what colour, is it watery, is it stringy, mucousy, I suppose, is another one, from the nose and even from fecal, any pus, okay, from recently maybe aborted animals that have actually retained, so they've got another infection that's going on there. So having a look at their oral membranes as well for lots of jaundice and hemorrhages. Flick the gums back, have a look. What colour is it? Anything unusual there? And also we get a bit of this up in the north there with uneven wear with teeth. They get around a bit like chipmunks up there. They got all this two big balls of grass in either side of the cheek, and they have trouble swallowing, and it's just their teeth are an absolute mess. So there's some issues going on there. Touch. When you're touching animals, are they flinching? Or even a bit of sound? does it make them react? Banging the slide gate, things like this. We had cattle the other day where by just simply closing the back gate or flicking the vet gate behind them, this animal ended up standing on his head in the crush. And, you know, we got a diagnosis there of bovine herpes virus, but obviously it was affecting his brain. But those sorts of things are interesting, and if we can flick that to the lab, it's telling them that, you know, we've got a very super sensitive animal here. You know, brains are important to examine and have a look there as well. The way he or she hold their head, is it stretched out? Are they gasping for air? What are the ears doing? Is she alert? Is she just so depressed and sick that her ears are just drooping down beside her? She's not enjoying life. They're good observations. Light with the eyes, is it reactive, or is it just the lights are on and no one's really there? You know, using a torch on your phone or something like that, just to see if there is any reaction there. And as I said before, check just for obstructions. It could be something as simple as a bone caught in the back of the throat. So, and if we do get nasal discharges or any other discharges, we can swab those. And you know, it's important that we know that before we set sail at your place, so that we can actually put in some different, you know, sample bottles that we can collect and submit to the lab. So back into the hind quarter of the animal now. So the rectum or the vagina. Okay. Any sorts of scour, pimelia. You know, we get two different types of pimelia. You get the gastro one. They get that real dark black scour. Could be a worm issue. Is there any blood in the fecal matter? Is it black and tarry? Is there you know, yeah, thick? You know, all these sorts of things are good. And if you get the opportunity, always collect a bit of fecal matter. It is important to get that analysed as well. You know, it simply has this animal just prolapse. We've had that before too, and just having some issues, just one animal. But again, it's important to have a look at it. Again, with female cattle, we can again have a look at their membranes in the vagina. Okay, it's not a particularly nice job, but it does give you a good opportunity to check what's going on. So is it yellow? Is it brown? Is there hemorrhages internally? So it's a good area to take a few notes there. And if you're lucky enough to see urine, colour, okay, and the consistency, how much is being passed? Is it just little bits and pieces, or is it, you know, just a normal flow? That's good, but it's red tinged. Tick fever or a number of other diseases that can cause red urine there. So, and if you can by chance just collect both fecal and that urine sample into a clean jar is fine. Anything that you know the plum jam's been in, just wash it out, give it a good clean up, and use those bottles. We can take those samples from you. And in this case, this fella just had multiple testicles, so he was a very fertile little bull. So anyway, you probably don't want him in your herd. Male repro, probably more on the sheep fellas. We do a lot of work with sheep with regards to ovis in sheep, so palpation of their testicles, looking for lumps and abnormalities and small testicles and stuff like that. Again, even with your repro in your cattle side of things, what's going on there? Are they, you know, is he got issues servicing the cow? In this case here, this fellow's got a cancer. You know, he's, yeah, absolutely no use to anyone. But yeah, sponginess in the testicles, you know, any swellings, lumps, any discharges. Again, we're looking for those from the male repro end there. So if you see any of that, just record it, take a video of it, photo, something, and just to assist us as well. Female repro, okay, well, things we're looking at here, is she wet, is she dry, is she preg tested in calf, is she preg tested empty? Okay, all these little things, especially with metabolic diseases, you know, they've got a big calf in there. We've just had that of late. I'm just waiting on the results now, but ketosis, you know, the cattle that are in reasonable order, but the fetus is just really dragging the energy out of the cows, and they're needing more, and they are actually telling you that, but whether we want to see it, I suppose, is another thing. You know, they look good, so we tend to ignore what they're trying to tell us at times, but they're needing a bit more energy to keep themselves going. So if they have a dependent at foot, how old is it? You know, is it just the cow that's being affected, or is it the calf, or is it both? You know, if it's, you know, both of the siblings, are they, what's the difference? Are they showing the same? Is mum, you know, is it getting through the milk? All these sorts of things. Is she able to feed those animals properly? You know, bottle tits, and or she just got a massive case of mastitis, or these sorts of things are interesting to have a look at as well. And also, again, as we said there before, any discharges. Retained afterbirth, we've had that before. With mummified calves or lambs, we've seen that a bit of late. I've had a couple of cases of mummified lambs, and the sheep just not doing real well. Not big numbers, but yeah, we are seeing them as well. So, and if you can do an internal examination of that animal, just see what is going on there. And I'm not saying anything bad about preg testers, but sometimes even just preg testing can cause issues. They get a tear, so they're going septic quietly. It looks all right on the outside, but she looks like hell. And we've done an internal examination and found a tear, and some valuable animals have been lost through that. So yeah, it's always a good idea. That animal there, she's a classic pimmel ear poisoning case that we had many years ago, but you can see the swelling in the brisket, the loss of weight. Yeah, she's just not doing real well at all, poor girl. So, and I think we'll see a little bit more of that later on in the year. Questions? Yeah, it's just about recording things, and I hope I haven't, you know, bored you or anything like that, but if you can just take that step back and have a good look, and just write a few things down, because it's amazing what you forget. And time after time, you know, you'll be out there and you'll do a disease investigation, and then the producer rings you up the next morning and go, oh, I meant to tell you this too. It sort of gives you a whole new line of thinking, and also even a whole new line of differential diagnosis that you could be pursuing through the labs. But you know, I mean, it's not a problem, but it's just good to build a really good picture, so that when we do send samples down to work out what's going on, the lab gets a full picture straight away, and they can set the samples and get into it and get the results out to us. And I suppose at that stage, you know, there are times where we get a no diagnosis, but we can be satisfied that we have ruled a number of diseases out, or plant poisonings, or whatever that we had suspicions of. So a no diagnosis is not a bad thing. It just gives, you know, we can rule things out and directs us into another track that we can keep pursuing and try and get to the bottom of what's going on there. So but yeah, that's it. I just encourage people to talk to their private practitioner, talk to their government vet or inspector. You know, the vets have got a wealth of knowledge there. There's inspectors and government vets there that have got a wealth of knowledge there as well. So yeah, just don't sort of just, and I hate to say this, but don't bury the head in the sand and it'll go away. We need to look at these things, try and get to the bottom of it for you. Like I said, not all times we'll get to the bottom of it. We'll try our damnedest to get there, and yeah, help you out. So don't be afraid to pick the phone up and make that phone call.